We've just witnessed the biggest leak in AI history. But what does this tell us about how we're all using Claude Code? 90% of you are underutilizing it. I've been in AI for over a decade, building it, breaking it, and seeing what really works. And I'm here to call BS on the bad advice.
And I'm here to keep it human as we go up in the AI.
I'm James.
I'm Tanya, and welcome to Up in the AI. All right, big things have been happening this week. And before we get into it, James, if someone's listening to this, what is it they're going to learn by the end of the episode?
Well, first off, you're going to learn about what not to do if you're a massive AI corporation. But seriously, what we've found in Claude Code's leak is so many gems about how you should actually be using it. So by the end, you will be out of the 90% and into the 10% power users.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's an interesting take that I found that, for what reason, I think we can talk about it a little bit more, that the shift is not necessarily on the expose of the leak, but actually the learnings that have come out of it. And that seems to be the common theme coming through. But before
Yep,
we get to that, I think I'm really interested because I've got a curiosity around it too. Like, there wasn't just one leak this week, were there? There was two, right? So
correct.
what
Yeah.
happened?
The first one was a simple one. Essentially, somebody leaked that there was a new model coming out that was going to put Opus to shame, this mythos.
Oh,
And the Anthropic are obviously a little bit concerned about it because their goal is actually to push this out to cybersecurity firms. So people,
um,
when they get the mythos publicly, the all of the cybersecurity firms are actually going to be prepared for what's to come.
what do you mean prepared for what's to come? What's going to come?
Well, they who knows? But the truth is that as these models get faster and more
Yeah,
powerful, the ability of them to hack into pretty much anything is going up and up. So if it's released in an open playing field, essentially there's going to be a lag before those cybersecurity firms, the people that secure your PCs, the servers, big
right.
banks. It's going to be a lag before they actually catch up. So Anthropic putting it out to them is a good move. And I think one only Anthropic would do. I don't think we would see OpenAI do that.
Yeah, I agree with that one. So just how much more powerful is Mythos claimed to be?
It's very uncertain at this stage. But
Right.
if we're looking at what Claude Opus can do right now, it's starting to enter the realms of beyond our imagination, I think.
Yes. And I've been testing a few of those things too. Okay, so that was one. And
Yeah.
then the second leak, the one I guess we're going to really focus on. What happened?
So I'm not very technical on this, but there was a push for a new update of Claude Code. And when
Yep.
we talk about Claude Code in this sense, we're actually talking about the software, not models like Sonnet and Opus. And
Right.
this is the thing that you run inside of your command line,
Mhm.
inside of your terminal. And inside of that, there was a security guy was able to track this unencrypted thing back to a whole set of features. Um, Essentially, when people are working on code, they comment out a lot of stuff that's in progress.
Yeah.
So when we've got a huge application like this, it's very hard to have a completely fresh copy that doesn't have any of the things that they're tinking around and testing.
Right.
And so they found this along with the whole source code, right? It's thousands and thousands of lines of code that literally outlines how Claude interacts with the Anthropic models. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, I think it was like 500,000 or more than 500,000 lines of
Yeah.
code, which is that's phenomenal. I just you might not know the answer to this, so but I'm just curious. Whoever found it, were they part of the Claude team or is this outside?
No, this is outside. So there,
Um,
it's in our blog post actually that we published. The person who initially found it pushed it onto X. I forget his
yeah.
actual handle, but his profile looks like a chicken. That's what I remember.
Okay. Right. Okay, and then he made it. public for everyone. And then so is this something that Claude would pull back, or would they have any claim to say that's not, you can't do that? Can they hold him accountable and sue him or anything? Or is it
I don't think
because it's, yeah?
they can't sue him. What they're trying to do is essentially it got published and then somebody else put it on GitHub, and then we've just had thousands and thousands of GitHub forks, which is essentially people copying the code.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
and so Anthropic legal team are working in overdrive to push people that have popped it on GitHub to take it back. And they are threatening legal action, but I don't know how much they can actually do if all they're doing is putting files publicly.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess from the interest of the viewer and in the article as well, you may think, how does this relate to me? I'm not a developer. I'm not interested in files of code. Thank you. So
Yeah.
back to obviously the people who will be probably watching this, what does it mean for them? What is it that we can share with them that they can take away and go, oh, okay.
I mean, in the grand scene, the grand scheme of
Having a
things,
birthday.
yeah, in the grand scheme of things, and this isn't a huge leak from a consumer point of view. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
corporate company secrets that are out there for people like OpenAI and Google and other open source model creators to play with. But as a Anthropic user, you're not at risk. You've not they've not
Okay.
exposed any APIs or any key customer data,
Okay.
and Claude Code is built to operate with the Claude models.
Mm-hmm.
So if you popped this code with the ChatGPT models, it's not going to work as well. So
Mm-hmm.
really, what's happening right now is the whole industry is just looking at, okay, what can I learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
Developers are going, right, what is Claude doing well that we're not? But I think the critical part is for us, what are the insights that we can glean from how they've set out their code? Because this is an open book. We've never seen this before. This is everything that makes it up. Some
Mm-hmm.
things that are live now, as I mentioned, some things that are not live. So
Yeah.
how can we see how from where they are now and where they're progressing, how we can alter our operations with Claude Code to get more out of it?
Yeah. And that's why you said 90%, it's uncovered that 90% of people are not using Claude Code to its full potential. So there were 9 things. Do we want to go through all 9, or we want to just
Yeah.
go through a few and then leave it rest to the article?
Yeah, we should go through all 9 on a high level. I will say probably 90% is low. I would say 99.9% probably not using it to its maximum. I was selfishly, arrogantly, happy to see that the majority of these things I was already doing and have been for months. This is the kind of thing that I've been training clients and the kind of thing that we talk about in our program, the AI orchestrators. This
Yeah.
ability to use Claude Code in a way where it understands IP and it progresses as the project progresses. This is memory 101, and we're doing it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. I have to say I was a little bit smug too. Not, I probably were not at your level, but I was like, oh yeah, okay, I did know about that. So that's interesting. Okay,
Well, I did
so
not you.
well, yeah, yeah, there you go. It's a good accommodation for you, 100%, 100%. Okay, so let's go through 'em one by one. So the first one, it's not a chatbot in your terminal. So when you say
Mm.
that, what do you mean?
Let's just say we're going through a guide that's on our website, the orchestrators.ai. We'll also put the link in our free school community, Make Money with AI,
Yep.
and obviously in the description of the video and the podcast. So yeah, I think a lot of people, this is the same thing we've been talking about with people using AI like it's Google. They think because it's AI, it's just a chat. But Claude Code is not that. If you want a chat, you go to Claude Desktop or you go to ChatGPT. Claude Code has all of these integrated parts that make it much more agentic, much more like an agent or series of agents, a
Hmm.
team of agents with all of these different skills and templates. Just the way that it's designed is very, very different to simple chat.
Hmm. Okay. And then so from that though, huh? I thought that linked into something else. Oh, there we go. It goes into the next one. That's right. Very nicely links into Insight too. Okay, so your highest leverage configuration file you'll ever write. What is that? What does it do?
So the Claude.md file, and Claude have made it super easy to generate this. There's a
Hmm.
function inbuilt in it, or init, initialization, / in it. And that will actually create your Claude.md file. But
Okay.
the more advanced users, they're doing it themselves, because this, okay, let me give you this example so you understand the difference between how chat works and how Claude Code works. If you go
Okay.
into a completely fresh chat inside of Claude Desktop and you
Yeah.
say, "Who am I?" it will list off all the things that it knows from the different chats that it's had, right? It has inbuilt memory.
Hmm.
Now, if you go to just a fresh Claude Code that's in a folder and that doesn't have a Claude.md file, it's a brand new chat, and it asks, it will have a look around at the folders that are there, or the files inside of those folders.
Hmm.
Assuming it doesn't find anything of you, it will literally say probably your name because it's on the subscription. And then it will say, I don't know anything else about you.
Okay.
So straight away, you can see the difference on how memory works.
Right.
And why is it designed like this? Well, as you're building apps, which is what this is originally meant for, web apps, mobile apps, websites, so on, you can't have information from one project, flowing over into another. And
Hmm.
now, as we're doing other things, like in our agency, we do a lot of project work. We can't have stats and confidential information from one project seeping into another. We just
Hmm.
don't want that. So that's why it's designed like that. But what that means is, unless you give it some sort of memory, some
Hmm.
sort of instructions, it's dumb. So that's what the Claude.md file operates as. And it's not just Claude has this. ChatGPT Codex has it with an agents file. Gemini has it with a Gemini.md file. This is the one file that is always referenced every single time a new chat is created. So this is
Hmm.
your initial baseline foundations, and this should be kept short, to the point. No fluff, no excess characters, under 200 lines. But this is your opportunity to talk about what it is that the project is, how Claude should operate, and if you want to reference any other key files, which we'll probably talk about in a minute, this is the place to do it.
Right. So you mentioned something, keeping it short and succinct. But
Yeah.
one of the things I noted that it has a max character limit of 40,000. And I think one of the things was that tend to be that the users are using just a very small portion of that capacity. So what's your thoughts there?
Um, it's a toss up, right? As a project starts, you probably don't need to spend too much time worrying about the intricacies, because the best way to operate with Claude.md and memory.md and all of the other files that you'll create is to teach it as you go. If you sit there and try and dictate into it everything that you want it to know from day one, it's probably going to be unstructured. It's going to probably be quite fluffy.
Hmm.
But what usually happens, the reason why people are having such short files is because they do it at the start, if they do it at all. Most people don't do it. They do it at the
Right.
start and then they never touch it. And that's the problem.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it needs to be an ever evolving file.
Okay, so that's not going to automatically happen. It's something that the user has to intently go and change and update.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And so just so I can also confirm, so you explained the difference between chat and Claude Code. So, but it's important that in both functions you have updated or created and or and updated your
Yeah.
Claude.md file. Yeah. And it's the
Yeah,
same
well,
file that
the,
runs
the
across
equivalent.
both.
The equivalent. So Codex is agents.md, and Gemini is gemini.md. So if you're operating in a multimodal and multi-agent workspace, like I use anti-gravity.
Yeah.
Anti-gravity is obviously powered by Google and Gemini. So I've designed my frameworks to automatically deploy a Claude.md file and a Gemini.md file.
Right. Okay. And okay. And so if in Claude specifically, you've got chat, code, co-work. So if someone's using chat and not code, there is still the choice to go and create and update your Claude.md file.
Well, chat's in the cloud, completely in the cloud, doesn't interact with any local files. So
Okay.
chat is pulling your chat has all of that inbuilt, right? So when you go into your settings and you have a look around, you
Yeah.
know, how do you want it to sound? Tell me a bit about you and all of that. And it also has that ever evolving memory, because the more you say to it, it picks key parts and it saves it, right? So that's chat sorted.
Yeah. Okay.
Co-work, co-work's very interesting because it's the bridge. So you can create a project in chat. You can train that project up with system instructions, with various knowledge base, and then you can deploy it in a local environment like you would Claude Code through
Mhm.
Cowork. But
Okay.
Cowork and Claude Code need the Claude MD file to be effective. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Okay. So then moving on to insight number 3. So commands. For anyone, explain the commands. And then there were a number of those that actually were uncovered that maybe most of people don't use, but would be really handy. And we've talked about the top 6. Cover that
Yeah. Well,
off.
my top six, and not
Yeah.
they don't have to be everyone's top six, but there was I don't know something like 85
85. Yes.
yeah,
100%.
slash commands found. I tested a couple of them out. Like I found, like my favorite one is / plan, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But
Yeah.
I found this deeper one, supposedly ultra plan, and I was super excited. Went into my Claude Code, keyed it in straight away. Skill not found. So
Okay.
clearly, there are a lot of these slash commands that are in the works and not live yet.
Okay.
But the ones that I use regularly, the one that I use multiple times every single morning, it's part of my daily routine to get up and work out what my most important tasks are, and then / plan in my Claude Code so that I get plans to work on for the rest of the day.
All right.
Um, and it saves so much back and forth. It saves so much
Mm.
um, context and token usage in the long run. It it gives Claude all of the context that it needs to actually perform the tasks. Um, and they the Anthropic developers have been using / plan before it came out to the public, and I think it's probably the most important function within Claude inbuilt. The other one is compact. I don't think many people use this properly. So essentially, what most people do is wait until they hit the context limit, and then they get auto compacted.
Right.
And they think, oh, great, I can carry on the conversation. Once you're auto compacted, especially if it's happening mid task, you're really going to kill the productivity of that function of what the AI is doing. So what
Right.
Compact does is essentially clear out your memory, leaving only the most important. And so as you hit, I usually as I hit like 30 or 40% context usage, um, I start to consider compact. Now I might compact, or what I might do is actually create a handoff prompt and start a completely new chat, leaving that one open. Um, and I'm sure it's in the name for us, the orchestrators. But I always have my first top level agent being an orchestrator. And I'm working with that agent to work out what do we need to do. It's that agent that does plans. It's that agent that spawns other agents.
Mm-hmm.
The By default, Claude is pushed to spawn all of these agents and run them in the background. But I actually, where I can, like to create handoff prompts and then have multiple chats running. It gives me a little bit more control of what's going on.
Mm. Okay.
Any questions about Compact and why you would use it?
No, not from me. I completely understand it. I think you get a great explanation there. Makes sense.
Yeah, cool. Review. I've actually, I'll be honest, this one went on my list because I was amazed about amazed that it existed and that I hadn't used it before. And I used it very quickly in the last day or so, and it's awesome. But I did not know about it before.
Hmm.
I'd actually set up a skill to do something similar, which is probably why I'd never looked into it. But review just is Claude's automatic skill that goes and reviews code. It works out what you've changed and goes deep, has a look, and there's a security version of it as well. I think it's called Security Review, and they'll have a look at any security vulnerabilities. I popped it here on the list because it's just super powerful. If you don't have a skill like I do, like I have different review skills depending on what I'm doing, and they might be more relevant in most cases than the / review. But for most people, they don't have that. So this is just incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't used it either, and now I'm going to go and use it straight away. Um, the other three, do you want to run through those or leave it for people to find out when they get to the article?
Well, we've already talked about INIT,
Hmm.
and then the other two are cost and context. They're just really cool to just understand where you are. What's context is about what Claude is concentrating on. Cost is obviously what you've spent. Um, I think they're cool tools, especially if somebody's a beginner. It gives them an idea of the usage and all of that stuff that I think a beginner should know. These are not tools that I use very often, just tools that I like.
How is the cost one different to going to your settings and looking at usage?
The cost one is going to give you the specific information for that particular chat.
Right. Okay. So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Very good. And there are 85 more
something like
commands
that.
that you can go and explore.
Yeah.
And let us know what are your favorites as well, like, and the ones that you were surprised at. So, all right, what is it? What is insight number 4?
So they've been pushing us quite hard to run agents in parallel. Um, and I often push back against that. That's why I start up my multiple chats. But more and more, I've been telling, okay, give me a handoff prompt, and then I have a secondary chat with an orchestrator that has a full plan, and inside that plan, he has to spawn multiple agents. Some of them that work in parallel, and some of them that work, upon the conclusion of the previous tasks.
Hmm.
Now, what we're finding, or what we have found, is that there is prompt cache between the subagents.
Hmm.
So it's like they all have the same context about what they're there for. And I assume that this is going to evolve into they'll all know what each other are doing, which is highly powerful because you just think about having humans. If you've got a marketing person doing strategy, somebody doing content, somebody doing imagery, and so on. Like you can't have them working in silos. You can't even just give them unified instructions and then let them work in silos after that. They need to be communicating. So
Hmm.
this is 100%. The road to seeing agents work much more like humans.
And you've got here 5 agents for the cost of 1, so it's like you're 5xing your output. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a fluffy phrase. That the truth of it is, it's just you're not having to reuse all of that. You're not having to redeliver all of that prompt caching over and over again. So you just have it once. So it's just minimizing the amount of back and forth, and thus the amount of token usage.
Okay. Okay, important stuff. I think the next one's my favorite.
The
Uh,
permissions.
yeah, well, obviously going through my own experience as I got, uh, the first experience I had was it was actually when it was building with that OpenClaw. Yeah,
Mm,
it was like I think I sat there for hours at my laptop. Allow, yes, allow, yes, allow, yes, allow, yes. And then I go to the loo and come back and it's asked me again, and I hope it was just doing something. So number
yeah.
5, configure your permissions and stop clicking allow. Allow this. I love
This
this
is
one.
Yeah, this is critical. I mean, I'll be honest. I have for months been operating with dangerously skip permissions. I got to a point where I've obviously got my frameworks that I use for different things, whether it be sales and marketing, whether it be websites. So I was pretty content that the agents knew what I wanted from its pre-prompting, and very rarely had I actually run into any issues with them having Claude having all of the permissions. But in my brain, in the back of my mind, like when you leave it to go and it runs for 30 minutes, you go you go to the toilet, you come back, a long toilet break. But anyway, you're not 100% sure what it's done, and your options are to trust it or to go through and read through everything, make sure it hasn't done something critical.
Yeah, 100.
This is much more powerful. This ability to actually edit what you feel comfortable with and what you don't
Yeah.
is huge. And so I've already done this. I've been living under the dangerously skip permissions for so long. I hadn't even considered this. And as soon as it came out, I had my Claude analyze all of these things that we learned, and this is one that we agreed to set up. And so I will be migrating away from dangerously skip permissions.
Yep. I mean, there is something to be said that going through the experience of sitting there while it's working through, there was, although I'm very aware that, most of it probably went over my head, but I was aware enough to see that what it was asking was like, is that something that I really want to happen? Is this something, is it going
Yeah,
off track? Is it going, yeah, or is it just, going in a different direction than it ought to be doing? So I think there was something
yeah,
learning in there to do that. But certain things you were just like, oh, yes, again, again, again.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Insight 6. Every token costs money. Manage it. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of weird one because it's most pertinent for the people right at the bottom, the super low budget that don't want to get hit, that don't want to pay more money on their
Yep.
subscriptions or their APIs,
Yep.
but they don't want to keep hitting limits, and also the people right at the top that are doing such huge amounts that managing token usage could be saving them thousands of dollars per month.
Yeah.
And I think this one's a one to just go read. They're just different techniques on how you manage the context, and
Hmm.
thus how much token usage is going to go in teaching your agent what it is that you want it to do.
Okay. Question. So, um, I think it's more curiosity for me. So, is there a way of, if you were building something with OpenClaw as an example, that you could have it run off your Claude subscription or other subscription types? Or is it all API?
Yeah, ClaudeCode runs off your subscription. Yes, is that what you were asking?
No, but it's a very
Say again.
specific. That's okay. So, OpenClaw. So
Yes.
this,
Oh,
what I built,
open. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If that would run off a subscription outside of Open Codex, I mean.
Originally, yes, it ran off Claude subscription, Gemini subscription, and OpenAI. But when OpenAI bought it, the others closed it off and forced people to go back into their APIs because it essentially became an OpenAI product.
Okay.
And API going through the API is more expensive per token than going through the subscription.
Yes. Where is that one? All right. Insight 7, the extension system nobody talks about.
Hooks, yeah. Um, This one is a bit more technical, probably just breeze over it, but there's lots of things coming into the ecosystem that essentially allows Claude to become more like OpenClaw, where there are ways in which you can schedule things if your computer is live. There's ways in which you can trigger things both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a developer in particular, this is very, very useful, I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I don't use a lot of this stuff. I actually prefer the co-work functionality with dispatch and the ability to schedule in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, developers definitely should look into this because I've highlighted it here because this is something they're clearly wanting to evolve, right?
Yeah.
All of the ability to just edit how Claude code works to kind of build your own environment.
Okay. Powerful. Insight 8, stop starting fresh every time. Sessions are persistent.
I'm embarrassed about this one, I'll be honest. So I knew that there was persistence in Claude Code. And
Right.
as I'm operating in the terminal, I didn't know about these commands. So if like cursor or anti-gravity crashed, what I would do is go to the extension that actually showed you've got a little history button in the top right-hand corner,
Yeah.
which annoyed me because I would go from being in the dangerously skip permissions and be able to do things really quickly back into that thing that you mentioned where you have to approve everything over and over again.
Uh,
And then when I saw this, I was a bit like tears in my eyes for two reasons: happiness, so that I didn't have to do that anymore, and also embarrassment that I hadn't known this previously.
we're all human.
Correct.
So what is it then? What is it you do? What's the win here?
Oh, when sorry, when you start up Claude, you just put the command, for instance, dash dash continue, and that will continue your last session, or dash dash resume, and it'll enable you to choose the session. These are all sessions that are relevant to what was operating in that project, in that path that you're in
Mhm.
the file path. So if
Mhm.
you're in one, you can't go and pull a session from a completely different project.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you like me, I don't have a computer running 24/7. I have my OpenClaw obviously on a VPS, but Claude Code just operates on my computer, and I let my computer sleep mostly in the evening. So it's really good if it does close down, that I can just
Mm.
go dash dash continue and pick up where I left off.
Mm. Yep. Okay, last one. Insight 9. 60
Yes.
plus tools that batch themselves. What is that about?
Well, this is MCPs,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
you can just do pretty much anything with an MCP. So if you're a developer, you're building on top of Superbase, you can get the Superbase MCP, and you can have Claude Code manipulate the structure of your database, manipulate information within the database. Like a really basic example of this is, if these days there's a lot of vibe coders out there building websites, and they're using Superbase as their database for their blogs.
Yep.
And if you're building it on something a bit more technical like that, like Next.js plus Superbase, then having this MCP is better than having an API. You can just go in and say what you want to do, or manipulate the database, and your blog will be instantly live. Make
Mm.
sense?
Yes, it
The-
does. It does.
I
So in the
I actually go on. Sorry.
no, carry on.
I actually, again, I use MCPs more in co-work. So the way that I've set up my ecosystem, and I will give
Yep.
you Insight 10 as well. um, I have, I've got these different frameworks. So one of them is for our sales agency, and it's just a load of pre-prompted agents and skills. Now, the thing to think about when you think of agents, that's like having a GBT. But when I have 40 agents in that framework, and they can all work together, and they all pre-prompted. That's like having 40 interactive GBTs that can interact with each other, right?
Mm.
Then you've got skills. Skills, you can train agents to automatically call skills. You can even train skills to automatically call skills. Skills are
Mhm.
like prompt templates. They're a set thing that you want, like an action that you want AI to perform. Then you have
Mhm.
other things like workflows and templates and all of these different things. Now, I have these frameworks, and every single time I get a new client, I create a new folder, and I deploy a framework. I have an initialization agent and some startup scripts that automatically create my um, Claude.md. I've got another file called a COS, client operating system, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And then essentially that project is running in isolation, and I have loads of
Mhm.
those stacked. Now, what I use Claude Cowork for, because I just like the visual interface, is inside of my root projects file. So just literally a folder on my Mac called projects. I run Cowork, and I run Cowork as my project manager.
Mm-hmm.
And it has access to Notion MCP, it has access to Reclaim MCP, has access to all of my different Google accounts. So I can marry up what's happening inside of these different projects by having it look at my COS file, my client operating system. Now, that
Mm-hmm.
is not very different, but that is different to memory.md and claude.md because it's got the critical information about my clients. What are their numbers? What stage are they at in my framework? What's the next step? So it's more project management memory. And so then my project manager can go and find all of these causes, can also find our human project management board in Notion, and also my personal project management system or task management system in Reclaim. Marry up all these three things and make sure that they're all up to date and that I haven't missed anything. This realization, because I was thinking about how to use Cowork as somebody that was an avid Claude Code user, I was like, how will I actually use Cowork? And I'm absolutely loving this. And I get it to create a HTML dashboard template so I can visualize that, and it updates it. I've scheduled a script to happen every Monday morning to go check all of these different projects, to go check Notion, pull it back, update the dashboard. So by 8 a.m. Monday, I'm checking this dashboard. I can see what's going on, and then I can start talking to it. So that's kind of like my insight 10 is my own insight, not from this, but deploying something like a client operating system, a little bit different to how you would use memory. And we didn't talk
Mm-hmm.
about memory.md is the traditional memory file that's used with Claude and Codex as well. Essentially, this is like, how do you want to be, like things like your language, Australian English rather than American English for us.
Right.
How do you what's your tone? How do you want to be perceived? How do you want to communicate? Is it short? Is it long? All of these kind of things. And then as you do something, as something goes wrong or not as expected, and you go, please update your memory so this doesn't happen again. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
memory.md file is. And that is a critical action that everyone should be doing. If they come across something and they're like, oh, okay, I didn't like that, you need to tell Claude, update this so it doesn't happen again.
Okay. Really interesting. And okay, the thing that has my attention is as someone that may be out there who's starting out using Claude Code or not use Claude Code, or let's just say starting out, right? Much of what we've talked about right now in the episode could feel very out of reach. Like, this is not something that I would I will be using, and it is very much for the technical developer-esque person. What would you say to that? Because there are people I know that you're working with who you're teaching this to who are getting a lot of value out of it, and they are business owners and operators, right? So how
Correct.
does it frame back to them, and why would they want to be diving in and learning this?
Well, this goes back to the program that you and I have created,
It
the
always
AI.
seems like I'm but I'm genuinely asking these questions, and then you're like, yeah, but this is what we do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I know, get
Yeah,
it.
I know. You're actually trying to be humble and not talk about it, but I want to talk about it because I am incredibly excited about what we've put together. The
Yeah,
90-day program is designed to take a non-tech founder through 3 key months,
yeah.
progressing them through understanding how all of this stuff works, then reflecting on their business, and then putting those two together so that they're creating frameworks that they can reuse, whether that be frameworks that they can give to staff or whether that be frameworks that they deploy for each client, like I do in my sales agency. Um, this is the thing that will get you those crazy 2, 3, 4, 5, and even in some cases like 10x efficiency returns. It's absolutely unbelievable what is possible. Now, the reason why we go from month 1 to that point where we're teaching them what is Claude Code, it's because we want them to unlock in their brain what is truly possible. I've spoken to so many of our clients, and they just when I pitch them an idea of how they can monetize their IP, they don't always get it because they just don't know what's really possible. But if I start by teaching them Claude Code and show them what we're doing, what I'm doing in my agency, the frameworks that I've created, then it's an unlock. And like the concept of the orchestrator, like I'm so glad that we coined that one nice and early, because the concept that you can orchestrate multiple agents, but also you as a business owner can orchestrate your whole team to
Yeah.
orchestrate agents. It's this orchestration layers that is mind blowing.
Yeah, it does blow your mind. And I forget the episode of that YouTube video we watched, but someone on the street asked this honest AI,
Yeah,
what is the job that you want to be in, right? What
yeah,
was the answer again? It was ultimately
uh,
AI orchestrator.
yeah. I think it was like an AI architect,
Yeah,
solutions architect, something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
doesn't surprise
It
me.
is. No, it doesn't. But it is really exciting. And it is, as you say, it does start to when you start to really unpack it and understand the potential impact and effects it can have for you as, an individual or your business is quite something. Okay. So we've covered a lot today. I think it's been really interesting. Obviously, these things, I feel like more of these things are going to be happening in the future.
Yeah.
Kind of feels very, I don't know, just an interesting time to live right now, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah.
So okay, have you mentioned where to go next? Like, if you're listening to this and you want to learn more, what's your next step?
Yeah, I think come to our free school community. If
Yep.
if you can imagine that, I think probably 99.9% aren't using Claude right. That's just using it as a tool. And then
Yeah.
what we're doing is a tiny percentage of even the best users. When we're creating frameworks for ourselves and our clients that they can
Yeah.
deploy, there's a lot of catching up for the majority of people. So if you're listening to this and you're a founder, or you're somebody that wants to start a business, you've got specific industry knowledge, come to
Mm,
our full community or hop on our website, theorchestrators.ai, take the assessment, and we will guide you through how you can monetize your IP, 10x your efficiency and the efficiency of your staff. And the other thing just to note is that this often progresses into SaaS as well. So it may be that Claude Code and what you can visualize as a CLI terminal, all these things that kind of go over most people's heads. It might be that we work with the founder to create the framework, and then we put our wrappers on it so that it's easy to use for anyone. So you can put guardrails on for your clients and for your staff.
100%. So, right, I think with that in mind, the only thing I would say, and I probably mention it every episode, is, if you've listened to this, if this interests you, take action, right? That's where you're going to be staying ahead of the AI curve. And we look forward to connecting with you. There are ways in which you can reach out to us, message us, jump on our transformation call that we do weekly through the school community. And
Yep.
dive in, feet first.
And like and subscribe.
Absolutely. Well mentioned.
And we'll see you next time.
Yes, we'll see you up in the AI.